And thank you so much for coming. I'm Tom Truelove, president of the Cheney Depot Society Board of Directors, and the person with a blank screen. But we'll probably make a better meeting if I have my screen being blank. Anyway, I'd like to thank all of our members and our supporters and our friends for all your generous contributions, monetary and otherwise, to the Save Our Station cause. We would never be as far along as we are without you. And so thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. First, some Zoom instructions. Leave your audio muted unless you're speaking. 2, you may submit questions for any of the presenters through the chat function at the bottom of the screen. This meeting is being recorded, so there'll be a record of it, and we are very happy to have you with us. I'd like to begin by introducing the board of directors. The Cheney Depot Society Board of Directors has 12 members, each member bringing a specific set of skills, which have been vital to our success to date. All of our board members are uncompensated volunteers who contribute many hours to the cause. So let's get to know them a little bit. I'm Tom Truelove, the president, and people are well aware of all the community connections I've had. We have John Taves, our vice president. John has been with the board for quite some time, fully versed in matters of the Depot Society, and brings a professional background of top executive with Bonneville Power Administration, great with contracts and that sort of thing. Bonnie Eccles. Bonnie is our treasurer, and she comes with a background in accounting. Susan Beeman, our secretary. Susan has been, a mainstay of the energy behind keeping this enterprise together, and she's been invaluable. We have Todd Abelman. Todd is the Public Works Director for the City of Cheney, and of course brings his engineering background, which has been very important as we build and relocate the depot. We have Ryan Gard. Ryan is with Eastern Washington University and the foundation. He's a graphic artist and brings an artistic idea to what we're doing. He's also a member of the Cheney City Council. Jack Gillingham, many of you know. Jack is a very successful businessman in the area, and Cheney resident. And Jack has a very successful company that moves dirt around, and so he's contributed tremendous amount of resources to preparing our site and finishing the site. We have Richard Mount. Rick is a lead attorney or a partner with Witherspoon Kelly in Spokane. He's a member of the Planning Commission in Cheney and helps us understand our legal obligations. We have Hannah Yarborough. I think you will meet Hannah very shortly. She is our, I guess she calls herself an anthropological historian. She does great research. She's a key to the future beyond just building the depot. And so we're glad to have her. Jeff Stafford is a professor at Eastern. Jeff is a specialist in communications and in community connections. Jeff is also a skilled builder and has an undergraduate degree in architecture as well as his PhD in communications. We have Kimberly Volan. Kim is a rising executive with Vista, and Kim is a specialist in figuring out how to communicate with people, use social media and the like, and she's been very helpful with connections in the rail industry. Finally, there's Jill Weissman. You all, I think, know Jill. She's a member of the City Council, been involved in nearly everything that involves the City of Cheney, and very supportive of the goals of the community. So that's the board. It's, I think, a very unique group that is the right group to get us through the construction project to where we are and begin to transform into future things. So I'd like to recognize Susan Beeman. Susan can take care of the obligation of reading the minutes from our first annual meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Our first annual meeting was held on Tuesday, March 30th of 2021. CDS Board President Tom Truelove called the meeting to order and welcomed the participants. He announced that Dr. Peter Hansen had been planning to be with us for the annual meeting, but sadly he passed away the week prior to the meeting. Tom acknowledged the enormous impact of Dr. Hansen's contributions to the Save Our Station effort. Tom then introduced the members of the Cheney Depot Society Board of Directors. Following the introductions, Susan introduced Hannah Ibarra, who described the journey of a letter and photograph dated 1927, which was found behind a desk in the baggage area of our depot as construction crews were readying it for relocation. Hannah described how the railroads contributed to small towns like Cheney becoming important to commerce and industry in the early 20th century. Susan gave an update on construction at the depot. Major accomplishments after relocation of the depot included the footings and foundation, removal of the original roof tiles, repairs to the roof deck, and then reinstallation of the same original roof tiles. Tom Truelove gave a financial update on the project. At this time, we anticipate the total project cost to be approximately $2.5 million. Costs to date total $1.277 million, and estimated costs to complete come to $1,237,000. Tom explained that our total expenditures in 2020 were $802,000, and of that, $767,000 was spent on capital items. Tom reviewed funding sources for the first two phases of the project and spoke about Dr. Hansen's vision and our vision for the future of the depot. Terry Morning, who has been working as the project architect, described the relocation of the depot and showed early concept drawings of the site and floor plans for the finished depot. We then had the election of board members. Tom explained that our bylaws call for us to elect board members at the annual meeting. He said that our current slate of board members have all indicated willingness to serve another term, but he wanted to give the membership a chance to vote to affirm that. The board members with terms expiring in 2021 were Tom Truelove, Todd Abelman, Ryan Gard, Richard Mount, Terry Morning, and Jill Wiseman. Susan made a motion to nominate our current slate of board members to serve an additional 2-year term, and Todd seconded the motion. The board members voted unanimously to retain the current slate of officers. Tom then explained that an email ballot will be sent out in the next few days to current Depot Society members to allow them to vote to ratify the board's recommendation. Tom invited questions and asked participants to stay in touch by email and to follow Depot activities on social media. Terry then answered questions on specific aspects of the depot restoration, and the meeting was adjourned at 6:04. And with that, I am going to, it's called for in our bylaws. I had to do that to you, and I apologize. But next, I'm going to introduce Hannah, who is again going to give us a presentation on history of the Cheney Depot. Hannah holds a degree in anthropology from Eastern Washington University, and she has been a joy to have involved in this project. So go ahead and share your screen.
Thank you. Just bear with me a moment as I share my screen. All right. And then I'm going to pull up a presentation, just a backdrop for what I'm going to talk about. Because I think that's right. I think that's all up. So we're transitioning, as sort of been mentioned, from the stage of reconstituting the depot and reconstruction of the depot into the interpretive phase of the history of the depot and why we care about this building from 1929. And so in doing that, I've been digging through some old Cheney Free Press, and several of us have been looking into what could be important to share with the Cheney community going forward. And one event kind of popped out at us, an event that happened on May 3rd, 1929. and it was a farm marketing train exhibition that came through the newly erected Cheney Depot. And it's a significant event for a few reasons. One, it's kind of highlighting the fact that the depot was not just a place where people came and left Cheney, Washington, but also it was a cultural hub and center of commerce for our community. At the time, the trains were the arteries of our society. And so this cultural hub became significant to the citizens of Cheney through events like this, a farm marketing exhibition. And thanks to Tom Davis, we have an article from the Cheney High School News documenting the event, The Market Train Visits Cheney. The event was a presentation, an exhibition of all farming, agricultural significance in the area. The attendees were significant members of the community, including the commercial club, who were the funding behind the new depot. They were the motivation behind the construction of the new depot. And they attended this event and served a lunch to the individuals who came to the event. And so it was one of their first exhibitions of this renovation of the downtown, this new depot that they'd constructed. And at that event, there were also other significant members of the community, including the Lieutenant Governor of Washington State, John A. Gallatin, and names we'll recognize if we're EWU alumni like C.S. Kingston and W.J. Sutton, Washington State Senator, of course, and a local farmer here in Cheney. So he would have been interested in farm marketing. And even the VP Coleman of the Northern Pacific Railways, Vice President Coleman, his name was W.E. Coleman, and he was based out of Seattle, and he was one of the vice presidents of Northern. So he was in attendance at the time. And Ernest Holland, the WSU president, was in attendance at the event. So it was a very important event for the community. And it included talks and presentations on farming equipment, presentations on grain distribution, on the new grain silos that were being put up in at the Seattle ports, which was sort of changing the way Washington was importing and exporting grain. Rather than sending it down the Columbia to Portland, they were now sending it via the trains to Seattle. So that was significant. Sorry, I've got this like one picture up, meant to click through more. And then in looking at this event, I also thought it was really significant, the timeline when this was occurring. 2,000 people came to see the farm marketing train. And of those 2,000 people, we can imagine that a large portion of them were farmers in this area. And we're talking about 1929, which was a tumultuous moment in agriculture in our country. It was the precursor to the Great Depression. The abundancy of grain that had been built up over time during World War I was no longer needed. Government bonds were no longer available to farmers for that excess grain production. The price of freight exports was dropping by 6% and would continue to plunge to inevitably 40% decline by the end of 1929 and at the time of the stock market crash, which we're all very aware of. But so this is a really significant moment for a small town in Eastern Washington to be displaying and celebrating the agricultural significance of our town. That was the life's blood. And so people would have come out and wanted to see what they could do, how they could promote their farms, how they could promote their grain, how they could prevent what they knew was happening and what the flappers and the zoot suits of Uptown USA didn't quite understand was happening until the stock market crash. So at that time, You also see the Agricultural Act of 1929 enacted by Herbert Hoover, where he creates the Federal Farm Board. He floods the market with $500 million in farm market buyouts. And with inflation, that's 7.5 billion today. So the farmers in this area would be kind of subsisting on this idea of government buyouts and knowing probably that was not gonna save them, and looking for what they could do to change things. And so I think it probably was a really significant event with the backdrop of the brand new depot. You would imagine people were really hopeful and really excited to talk about how they could save their farms and save the future. And seeing as we're all here today and we're renovating the depot, and we all know that Cheney growers and all those things have managed to survive that time period, it's a really cool event to look back on. And that's all I have for you. I hope I didn't speak too fast, and I'd be happy to go into anything else that anyone was interested in later on.
So thanks, Hannah. It's very interesting. If you have questions, use the chat function. And when we finished with the meeting, there may be time to engage in some discussion. So anyway, I'm, I guess, tasked with the idea of construction summary and sort of what the current situation is. We all together were very excited watching the depot being moved and placed on its site. And starting this fall, it's kind of there. Nothing much seems to happen. It snows, it rains, there's mud, we got a little paint on it. So it looks like nothing is happening, but that nothing could be further from the truth than that, because most of what's been going on has been behind the scenes, not something you can see from Main Street. That's going to change now as we begin to finally finish the construction phase of this and be able to move on to other things. The things that we've accomplished, the windows and doors have been removed, and there's been some work on those. We've had Vista bore a hole under Main Street and bring gas service to the site. So we have natural gas service there now. We have negotiated another contract with Walker Construction, and we've been going through their estimate of what it's going to take to finish the depot and what they're recommending for various items, and modifications are being made. And so that's sort of an ongoing process. The architectural drawings, the architecture of what is going to be done to complete the depot has been underway. And of course, there's a bunch of site work that needs to be done, and Jack Gillingham is going to be contributing a huge amount to finishing that. So there's been discussion with Jack about what the next phases will be there. And so that's pretty much a summary of construction at this point. I think that as we move into the next month, you're going to see a lot of activity. It's going to be a little more exciting, things that you can see visually, and there'll be more opportunities for engagement and cooperation. So I didn't have any photos about that, because I feel everybody's had a chance to look at the depot on Main Street and hopefully appreciate it as much as we do. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we're able to get it where it is now and be where we are in the process where we can finish this, and that we've been able to put together the financial package that is allowing us to move forward and get this thing done. It's just, to me, it's a miracle. And everybody who's been involved has been a key to it. So what I need to do, we spent a bunch of money. We have a bunch more to spend. This is a truly big project. And so Susan can give us a quick rundown on a financial report. Susan?
Thank you, Tom. I am sharing my screen with you. Our bylaws call for us to be open with the membership about our financial situation. And so that's one of the things we're trying to do tonight. This report indicates our financial position at the end of 2021. It's not exactly current as of today because we're almost 3 months into the year. But in 2021, our income included the last payment of the Washington State Historical Society grant. It included a number of individual and business gifts and the matching grant from Dr. Peter and Carol Lee Hansen. We also had grants from the Northern Pacific Railway Historical Association and the Burlington Northern Foundation for total revenues of $316,000 that were dedicated toward the capital project. We also had revenue from memberships and donations that came in that were not specifically designated for the capital project. That accounted for another $33,000 in revenue. And this one is the one that maybe makes us most accountable to you. This is the accounting for how we spent your money. The money that I think everyone who's on this call has been a donor of some sort. Our major expenses during the year are for insurance and taxes. And we have a number of other smaller expenses, postage and printing, conference and meeting expenses. That would include the Zoom subscription that allows us to have meetings remotely. Professional fees, some of these are showing as expenses, but you need to be aware that many of these were offered as in-kind donations. They were professionals who contributed their skills and their talents. So it might not have been an out-of-pocket cost, but we show it as an expense because the work that was performed had value. So you can see that our net revenue for 2021 was quite large. A lot of money went into savings. And our fixed assets. This is our accounting for the value of the land, the value of the sign, and the building itself. So our total assets are up over $1 million. Our estimated project costs, I think I read that in the minutes. Our funding sources, phase 1 was relocation of the depot off the Burlington Northern Santa Fe right away. We picked the building up and moved it. And phase 2 was building the footing and foundation under the building, stabilizing the exterior to protect it from deterioration. And that was roof work, that was painting, that was exterior stucco. And that was, this list shows the funding sources that were part of phase 1 and phase 2. I will point out that Dr. Peter Hansen had offered to match dollar for dollar the first $500,000 from non-public money that was used to fund this project. And about $430,000 of his match was used on phase 1 and phase 2. I think we've kind of covered that. Phase 3 is the interior rehab of the building and the site finish. So utilities, we have been fortunate to be awarded a second large grant from the Washington State Historical Society. And Carol Lee Hansen, Dr. Pete's widow, and her family not only donated the remaining $70,000 of Dr. Pete's initial $500,000 donation, but she gave us an additional $200,000 for a total of $700,000 from the Hansen family, which supported the Cheney Depot project. We owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude. Tom mentioned the donations from Gillingham excavation, and he has committed to another very large donation in phase 3. The Avista Foundation had awarded us $25,000, which was used in phase 1 and 2. They've also offered us another $25,000 to be used on the interior rehab of the building. And here is where we're showing the $10,000 from the BNSF Foundation and the Northern Pacific Railway Historical Association. We continue to have funding needs. We continue to write grant applications. And honestly, we continue to receive donations weekly. So thank you to all of you for your ongoing support of the Cheney Depot project. We are trying to be very good stewards of the money that you've entrusted to us. With that, I am going to let you hear from Tom Davis. Tom is a longtime supporter of the Depot project. Even before we knew there was a Depot project, he and Dr. Pete were discussing and strategizing. And he is an ex officio member of the Cheney Depot Society Board. And particularly, he represents the Hanson family's interests in this project. Tom, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Sue. Kind of follow-up of Dr. Pete's vision. His vision was preservation and economic growth for Cheney and the surrounding community. And he, as most people know, he was a native of Cheney. And Dr. Pete recognized the significance of the depot and where the trains stop. It's also where his grandparents, the Hansons, the Hubbles, arrived in 1890s. The Hubble girls were distant cousins of Edwin Hubble, astronomer, on whom the Hubble Space Telescope was named after. In 2009, Pete wrote a quote here, "The Cheney Depot needs to be moved and restored. It should be the heart of downtown where people can see it, access it, and hear the trains roll by." He also felt it was important for a place where kids and families can see the trains go by, tooting their horns, as he added. And Pete really believed that tourism can be a growing renewable resource and income for Cheney and the surrounding area. He really was into the tourist draw if the depot became a kind of a center of attraction. Part of the depot will be devoted to railroad paraphernalia. Also a place where visitors can obtain information on, quote, the 12 wonders of Cheney. Can you guess what those wonders are? Dr. Pete did. I'll read the list. Number one on this list was Cheney Mayfest. Number two was Cheney Spokane Ice Age chapter activities, including touring of the Williams Lake Cataract. 3 was Turnbull National Wildlife Refuge. 4 was fishing in 50 lakes within 25-mile radius of Cheney. Eastern Washington University athletic events with its red field and visiting the one-room schoolhouse. Historical train depot with live trains going through town. Believe it or not, train buffs will be coming with kids and families. Regional Historical Museum, Cheney Rodeo, Cheney High School athletic events, Columbia Plateau Trail and State Park, along with other trails, bicycle tours of sorts, and summer concerts in Sutton Park. Those with his 12 wonders that he envisioned will be taking place. Okay. It's been this week has been a year since his passing. And I think Dr. Pete would be greatly pleased to see the progress and the commitments of the board members and supporters with their contributions. I know it was extremely important to him. And also we must remember the foresight of Dr. Pete's vision and his 500,000 gift to make this happen. As Susan mentioned, Curly and family contributed another 270,000 to ensure completion of the depot project. Let's continue with our support for contributions to really ensure that the depot will become a centerpiece of our community. With that, next I'll introduce Russell Coulter, a historical preservation consultant who has been working with the Cheney Depot Society to develop a long-term plan for interpretation of history of the depot. Russell is a principal and owner of Cultural Reconnaissance, a preservation consulting firm in Tacoma. With that, Russell, you're on.
All right, thanks, Tom. I've got 8 slides. I'll just trip through them real quick here. And we'll talk a little bit about what I've been doing with the interpretation committee here. There is an interpretation master plan. What you're seeing on the screen here is what I'm considering the 90% document. This was the document that needed to be turned in as part of my internship with the Cheney Depot Society. And now that it's been turned into Norwich University, I'm collecting comments back from the board members, and I'm collecting comments back from the Southwest Spokane Historical Society. I'll fold all those in, and then at that point, it'll become the board's interpretation master plan, and then they'll make it public at that point. But I'll give you a kind of a sneak preview of what that's going to look like. There's some project oversight. I didn't do this on my own. Tom Truelove oversaw the project. He put together an interpretation committee that helped me tremendously in helping to redefine the goals of the Cheney Depot Society, which has been a preservation organization all the way up until this point. Now we're going through a transitionary period where we're going to become more of a public history organization rather than a historic preservation organization, because we picked the depot up and we've moved it. I had Dr. Scott McLaughlin was the Norwich University capstone advisor. Tom Davis, who you just heard from, was the Cheney liaison to Dr. Scott McLaughlin. So Tom was feeding him weekly updates on how the plan was coming about and how I was conducting my business with the interpretation committee. There's a couple of parties that need to comment and concur on the final deliverable, including Joan from the Southwest Spokane Historical Society, County Historical Society, and the Washington State Historical Society will ultimately have to buy off on the interpretation master plan, because it's stipulated in our grant that this be completed. So the interpretation committee, the first thing we did is we developed a new mission statement. We identified some interpretational themes, stakeholders. We conducted some issue and resolution discussions and identified some critical needs. Those meetings are still ongoing. We had one last week. The first thing that we needed to conquer was a mission statement, because the previous mission statement was preservation focused, and this one needs to be more focused upon the depot as it is now, instead of projecting what it could be in the future. And so I need to call out Kim Valens. She was very helpful in crafting this mission statement, and the board enthusiastically accepted it. So thank you to Kim for all of her help. So Susan asked me to talk to you about interpretational themes, and the interpretational themes are, what's the big idea? Well, the big idea is the depot, but underneath that, there's some sub themes that need to be addressed to make this place really speak to the history that it has been a testament to for 95 years going on. And that includes the people that built the railroad and the depot. But there's some other themes as well. There's cultural themes, there's historical themes, and there's societal themes. And the cultural themes are really circulate around the landscape of the area, including the regional flora and fauna that we find over at Turnbull National Wildlife Refuge, and the lifeways of the American Indians that lived in the Channeled Scabland area. Was not just the Spokane, but was also the Nez Perce and other neighboring tribes that seasonally visited this area for all the wonderful resources that are easily and readily available. Made life in this area rather pleasant, and did not require them to move seasonally like some other groups had to do. And the historical themes are more focused around what we would call during the time in which we find written history. So that starts with the first contact with European explorers, the fur traders, and the missionaries. We see development patterns, circulation patterns, trails become roads, roads become railroads, and then we see the advent of freeways and things like that. The catalyst for a lot of this growth was the advent of the Northern Pacific Railway, and we owe quite a bit to the Northern Pacific Railway. We get our namesake Cheney from the Northern Pacific member board of directors, Ben Cheney, who gifted an academy to Cheney, which became Eastern Washington University. So those are the types of historical themes that we will the committee looks to touch upon. A really important one is the change from yeoman agriculture to corporate monoculture. Yeoman agriculture is, that Jeffersonian ideal of every family having 40 acres and raising crops, but we don't see that anywhere in the Cheney area. We see thousands of acres of commercially grown soybeans and wheat and things like that, and that's not at all what Jefferson had envisioned. The eruption of Mount St. Helens played an important role in historical themes as well. Some of you were actually there when it happened. And then persons significant to Cheney's past, Governor Clarence Martin, for instance, astronaut Michael Anderson, and even more recently, Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp. We still don't know what that historical ramifications are of that, but I expect to see that to continue to reverberate as long as he continues being a success. Then there's the societal themes, and that's more of the, of the broader picture issues. The role of ethnic minorities played in the development of Cheney. Gender studies is also another theme, and the actual effort of the society to preserve the depot is something that is going to shape the way Cheney operates in the future, because we picked it up and we moved it, and we've also changed its use from being a depot to being a center for interpretation. And that's pretty much what I've been up to, and I will defer questions to the end. until then, let's see, I'm going to turn over the conversation over to my friend Terry Morning, and he's going to talk to you about the site development of the depot at its new location. Terry?
Hello, everybody. Many of you heard me last year chat about the moving of the project, and we dreamed a little bit and we had a lot of fun. I'm the project architect for this, and it's been a pure joy to dream and see what this building can be for the community. What I have, and I'm going to try and share my screen, I have a short presentation on site plan and some of the interior elevations that are being developed for construction. We're not going to bore you to death with all the construction documents or anything else, but you're going to have to cross your eyes and stand on your head a little bit because these drawings are a little flat. So you're going to bear with me. I'll walk you through it. And we'll have questions at the end, so you could feel free. So Sue, help me share my screen if you need to here. I don't do this very often, so how do I get rid of that?
You need to click the ribbon at the upper left-hand corner from the beginning.
Slideshow.
There you go.
From the beginning. How do I get rid of you guys in the picture? Or do you see that? Come on, Russell, cut me some slack here. So I see him laughing. He's got himself muted. Okay, so up in the upper left corner is the conceptual drawing of the building in its new location. And that was a lot of fun to dream on that. That drawing's fairly old now, but it sure looks pretty close to what we're doing. And I'm going to move on to the site plan. So that picture was looking at it this direction. This is the building. And the railroad, of course, is up here. And so what we did is we brought the depot in. Many of you know this, brought it in and turned it around. This area is the covered arched area, outdoor area. We really, really, really wanted that to be oriented to the downtown core. And there's just the excitement of that area and its relationship to downtown made a lot of sense. Plus, if it was over here in the evening sun, you'd be baked to death. So there was a couple of reasons for that. And then this dormer right here is really a nice feature it's the front of the building. And we wanted to put it on West First Street so you could enjoy it more. Not that this side's ugly by any means, but this side's a little bit better. So the site plan that we're going to be working towards, it may tweak a little bit here and there, but we're going to have a false track that comes down through in the pavement, and there'll be an end of a rail feature right there. That's just to kind of help make it make sense that we spun the building around. This is a vacated track. The paver area will replicate what was there originally, and lampposts, little lamppost right here, will be just like what we had before. We'll add a couple more out here. We're going to bring what'll look like pavers, but it'll be concrete with a sign element, but it'll focus on the center of the building coming from the street. But it should be able to enter off of Union Street as well as I Street and have plenty of parking. And in the back towards the rail, we'll have a retaining wall. As you know, the building's way up in the air right now. We purposely did that to get the center of the building about the same level as the sidewalk out here. And keep watching, there's going to be a lot of dirt coming in, and we're going to bring this whole site up to the sidewalk level. It was just important, and I'm sure when you drive by, you say, wow, that thing really makes a statement. So that was purposeful. So there's a couple of additions to the exterior or alterations to the exterior that we're doing. This is original drawings. They had sliding doors that slid into a pocket here and in the end of the building. We are going to have those. We're going to rebuild those, but they will be kind of an interior feature with a large French doors that will be on the outside, more for the security of it and weatherproofing and whatnot. But we'll rebuild those doors too, so you'll be able to see through there. And the raised We had a loading dock down over here. Well, this floor is now down, so this will be a really, really tall door now. But we'll make it look good. Don't worry about that. On the covered archway area, we've so you see through here, there's 3 windows. There's one in the middle too. And that window right there is this window in this drawing. We have a cut through one of the archways. This dotted line, we're filling in one of those windows and that window, which would be that one and a center one. And we're putting in 3 French doors so that, and I'll show you in the plan, this helps us use this outdoor archway area to its full degree and bring people out for outdoor dining and entertainment and reaching out to the community. So we were just looking at that door right there. And so alterations to the interior, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. We're picturing the former ladies' waiting room dining area, the former general waiting area, another dining area. If this should be a restaurant or a coffee shop, that's the plan that we have right now. The former ticket office will be dining. The pit, the water-filled pit that was the furnace room, is now raised up, and it's going to be a serving area for a coffee or restaurant. And then down over here, the former baggage room, which was that big square, we'll have a conference room, and we're going to have a bathroom. And the formal freight area down over here, and I suspect you see all your faces over here. I don't know how to get rid of that. That's going to be kitchen, or if it's a coffee shop, they don't need it. You know, maybe it's a roasting area for coffees. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're going to work with the vendor or the inhabitant or the tenant to tweak on this plan. So what we're doing, number one, is we're going to open up this wall. It was just a single doorway. We're going to open it up and make a big archway. I'm going to show you a picture of that pretty soon, or a drawing. This doorway was just a fairly narrow one. We're going to open it up slightly. This area right here at number 3, it was always a ticket window. We're going to rebuild the ticket window with roll up. The window actually slid up into the wall like a pocket door going up, and it had a metal grate, and then it had a counter. Below that counter, we're wanting to build a two-sided fireplace. No, that's not part of the depot, but it's sure going to make this dining area look really nice, and it helps the counter depth make sense. So, and then up here in number 4, as I spoke, the serving area will be different, and there's a big archway that's going to open that up that was always closed. This room is really exciting, actually. It's the only vaulted ceiling in the building, and you look up you step in and look up, and there's some pressure tanks and some wonderful piping that we're going to clean up and leave it there. Down over here, we're adding the bathroom, as I mentioned, and a conference room and the kitchen. So let's walk through some of these. So the interior elevations I'm going to show you, I think I kind of hit on that. I'll just zip through and I'll walk you through as we go. So in the general waiting room, which the women's waiting room's over here, this is the main area. We're looking that way. You're standing in there looking that way. The former door was right there. That's this little dotted line. And now we're putting a big archway. That's a very abstract person that looks a lot like Russell, I think. Sorry, Russell. This is the chair rail is all existing. We all rebuilt to make it look just like it was. There's an existing picture rail. These drawings are very careful to interact those. It's very purposeful that the spring line of the archway starts right at the chair rail and stops. This is the ceiling line of the room beyond. You have to be careful because otherwise your archway can interact in a weird way, but got it under control. This is turning around, looking back. This is the ticket window over here that I was talking about with the two-sided fireplace. We're going to rebuild the schedule board that was unfortunately missing. The chair rail, we have details from the original drawings that show all this. It's not a problem. You see my chicken scratch here. This drawing's a little bit old. We're widening this doorway, but we're going to put a transom window up above that to make it lighter because it's really high ceilings. So you've just stepped into the next room, which is the old ticket office. You're going to turn to the left and you're going to look towards that archway leading into the serving area, the new serving area. And so this could be a seating counter. It could be just serving. But again, here's that chair rail comes over, the archway springs off of it. And if you stood right in front and looked up, you'll see the vaulted ceiling. These are windows that are there. I think it'll be a really fun space. This opening here, which is this one, used to have a door on it. We're going to remove that door and it will magically reappear over here on this bathroom. So reusing it all. So if you turn around and look back, we're creating a countertop here with these bay windows. We're going to have that, and then to replicate the existing ticket window, which is over here, we're going to put a series of drawers underneath, and like the ticket window had, I'm kind of picturing these as interpretive drawers where you'll pull them out, and maybe they'll have glass or plexiglass over them, so you can look and see, what might have been in the building at that time, or what have been used by the people, or whatever we want to put in there. You won't be able to handle them maybe, but I don't know, it's still evolving. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So we're going to walk this way. So this is the old registry room. We're making a story room into a furnace room and a little custodial sink. So you come in, and so now we've created a conference room and bathroom and a hallway. This used to be one big baggage room, and it all had shiplap siding and ceiling and everything. So looking back, this is rebuilding that big sliding pocket barn door thing, and it slides into a big pocket. That's what this area right there. So we rebuild that, but on the outside, there's still that French door for security, but we can slide it whatever we want to do with it. This curved wall, purposely didn't really want it to look like we're rebuilding existing walls or trying to pretend that it's an existing wall. The curve helps your eye be drawn back here. It just helps be smooth. But if you picture, these windows will be visible from all the way down over there when you walk in from that arched outdoor space. You'll be able to see these windows. It will draw you through the building, and you'll want to come down and explore that. So nothing is done by happenstance. It's all purposeful. Now I'm going to show you those windows right there. These look weird because we're looking at them on an angle. And there's another one back behind all your faces if that's what you're looking at. So we have little display areas that are kind of earmarked for interpretive. We're going to try and intersperse those around. So we just went into the conference room. Remember I said that the freight room back here, that's now going to be the kitchen, it was elevated about 3.5 feet. So this door opening that was existing with that existing sliding door was up 3.5 feet. We're going to leave it that way. And so on the kitchen side, there's a countertop right there. And so this could be a serving area for the conference room to the kitchen, should it ever have a need for that. Or you close it off and just so use it. But I think it's kind of nice just to leave it the way it is, let it be in its wonderful glory, what it was. And again, all the shiplap is going to stay or be repaired because it was a very utilitarian space. We don't want to get too fancy. And I think that's about it. So how do I get out of this? There we go. So I can either turn it over to Tom Truelove, or we can have questions. Happy to answer questions. And that's up to you, Tom, whether you want to open it for questions or what. Take it away.
Okay, thanks, Terry. Maybe we'll go through a couple of other items here on our agenda, and if there's a little time left afterwards, we can do some questions. That was a great presentation. It gives us a lot of ideas about what is going on and what has been thought about. Our bylaws actually require that we have an election for directors, and they stipulate that any member of the Cheney Depot Society can qualify to be a director. This year we have 5 directors whose terms are set to expire in April of 2022, and they have all agreed to serve another 2-year term. This makes quite a bit of sense because we've been together doing this construction project and we're just about ready to finish it up. Once we finished it this year, I think there are going to be opportunity for a lot of people who have interests other than just construction to take a position on the board. So having said that, I'll accept a motion to recommend the slate of directors and ask the Cheney Depot Society members to vote by email to confirm.
I
Is
thought,
there a
Make a
motion?
motion. Sorry.
oh, go ahead, Jill. I'll second it then for you.
Okay.
Okay, motion by Jill Weissman, a second by Ryan Gord. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Sorry.
motion carries. So an email ballot will be sent to the Cheney Depot Society members in a couple of days. And it'll be due to be replied back by 4 p.m. Friday, April 8th, 2022. So that actually would complete our requirements under the bylaws for the second annual meeting. Question comes up, so how can you help? Many of you have helped immeasurably in the past, but you can help by contacting any board member or send an email to cheneydepot@gmail.com explaining skills that you have and how you might be able to help with anything from painting, landscaping, outreach, fundraising, professional services, historical research, and so forth. There are going to be a number of volunteer opportunities that are more plentiful now as our general contractor progresses on the interior rehab. And also, as we move beyond the COVID period, it becomes more possible for us to work together. And that has really restricted the amount of volunteer activity we could have in the past. So anyway, we'd appreciate it if you do social media to give us your likes and shares. Mostly, we'd appreciate that you spread the word about the Depot Society and our massive undertaking here. Talk to friends, neighbors, and relatives. And I think it is really essential for the future of our dream and project is to recruit new members to the Cheney Depot Society. So I'd ask you to please do that. With that, that would conclude the items we have to have for the meeting. And so are there any questions? I'd like to thank you for your support and partnership. Together, we're doing what most of us thought was impossible. Christy, you had your hand up. You're muted. You're muted. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I wonder if we have a restaurant committed to that space.
I'm sorry?
Do we have a restaurant committed to that space?
No,
Oh.
not at this time. I think we have some interested parties, possible, some leads. We're actively open to different people, but nobody's committing at this point. We're just, if you know somebody, let us know. Or if you have ideas of different, it's all good. We're not scared. I think the depot's a definite asset to somebody. We just need to find that perfect somebody. And we want it to be a good fit, because as a nonprofit, we can be very competitive with our rates. And I think that's our really good thing, is that we don't need a bunch of profit or want a bunch of profit. We just want to maintain the building. So I think we can be very competitive and offer an awesome building.
And you
Also,
don't care whether
I
it's a
think-
chain restaurant or a individual local sort of thing?
I think
Well, of
that-
course,
I think it has to be something that is compatible with attracting our local community members in. It has to be something that is compatible with showcasing the depot. And so, that's a constraint that makes it more difficult to recruit. I don't think we want to think of necessarily a big box chain.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. So are there other? If you have questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat thing or to call somebody on the board. So stay in touch with us, Cheney Depot. I will adjourn the second annual meeting.
May I say something, please?
Yes, Mark. Lush, West Plains Chamber, Executive Director.
Thank you. As you move forward with this, you will have the support of the chamber to help make this a viable destination and property and visiting community collaboration location. Just let me know I can help. We need to make this happen and I'm excited about it. So you've got my support.
Thank you so much, Mark. That means so much to us to have the West Plains Chamber get behind the project that way. Any other comments? Thank all of you for coming then. We appreciate it very much. Recruit more members. We want to have a full house for our 3rd annual meeting in about a year.
One other comment, you may want to add the ability to join your organization online. I've looked online a few times and there's not a way to join. And that would make a huge difference in today's society if they can go online and join without needing to contact someone and get an application.
Okay, good advice.
I have one comment, if I may.
Sure.
Terry, I don't think you mentioned timeline on construction or anybody, how we're, as we're progressing, what we are hoping our open date will be.
I think Sue has got her pulse on that a little bit more than any of the.
I've been told by our project manager at Walker Construction that from the time they mobilize and are on site, that we could expect 5 to 6 months to completion.
Awesome.
Which is amazing.
That should be before the end of the year. Right?
Yep, we're on track for that.
Awesome. Thank you.
More exciting times.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Well, and as we move forward on construction, and there's going to be a ton of different things that we can mobilize volunteers for. So if you have a passion for getting your hands dirty, whether you can do a little painting, do a little digging, do a little anything, let us know. If you have any friends, I don't know, challenge your friends, say, well, I'm going to go do this. What are you doing today? Be sure to, let us know. We could definitely help out. And then that goes towards our grant repayment anyway, or matching. That's awesome.
Many businesses in the area are always looking for ways to do community service and give back. I know the credit unions have a cleanup day every year. So maybe there's a way to reach out to some of the businesses and let them know that there is a need. And if you plan things ahead of time, go to the chamber website and you can add calendar events anytime. You don't have to be a member to add it. Add events that are coming up. June 20th, we're going to do a cleanup around the depot. Post it up there. We'll make sure it gets out there as an example. But use us.
It's good. Yeah, Chris.
Will you be emailing the link to this for the people who weren't able to be here today? Good,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure, as we figure all of that out. Okay, well, that concludes our 2nd annual meeting. So with that, I thank everybody for coming, and we hope to see you soon on site as the excitement begins here.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.